You're crouched in the dirt, brush in hand, clearing away the last layer of stone from something that hasn't seen daylight in over 100 million years. For decades, everyone assumed this moment would only ever give you a skeleton, gray bone, and nothing else. You've been told exactly what to expect. You're about to find out how wrong that is. Context and scale. Here's the problem nobody explains clearly enough. Imagine someone a million years from now digging up nothing but an elephant's skull, a giant hollow face, huge tusks, a strange opening in the middle. Would they ever guess that animal carried a massive trunk? Almost certainly not. That's exactly the trap you're standing in right now with every dinosaur you've ever pictured. Bones can tell you how tall an animal stood, how it moved, how hard it could bite. They stay completely silent about everything that made it look alive. Skin texture, feathers, color, fat, the soft tissue that turns a skeleton into a living creature. Every dinosaur you've seen in a museum or a movie carries a fair amount of educated guesswork hidden beneath the science. Historical origin. Then, in a handful of places, the ground gave up something nobody expected. Instead of scattered bone, paleontologists started uncovering fossils so precisely preserved that they held onto feathers, skin, color pigments, even structures that almost never survived the trip through deep time. You stop imagining these animals. You start looking at something closer to how they actually lived. 6 of those discoveries do more than rewrite what dinosaurs looked like. They make the whole ancient world feel unsettlingly real. First major reveal. Prehistoric Nightmare 1. Yutyrannus, the giant feathered predator that changed dinosaur science. Brush away the first layer, and you find Yutyrannus, a close cousin of Tyrannosaurus rex. Close to 30 feet long, well over a ton, intimidating enough without a single surprise attached. For years, one assumption seemed untouchable. Small dinosaurs could carry feathers, giants couldn't, because bigger bodies hold heat far more efficiently and simply never needed the extra insulation. Then paleontologist Xu Xing and his team would have found multiple skeletons this size in northern China, surrounded by clear impressions of long, hair-like proto-feathers. Not flight feathers, nothing built for the air. A shaggy coat on something built like a small tyrannosaur, in a size class everyone had assumed was permanently off-limits to feathers. Paleontologists now believe Yutyrannus lived through a cooler stretch of the early Cretaceous, average temperatures near 10 degrees Celsius. Cold enough that an insulating coat stopped being surprising and started being obvious. Overnight, one of the oldest rules in dinosaur science stopped being a rule at all. If something this big could wear feathers, how many other giant predators had you been imagining completely wrong? Continuous micro-mysteries. Prehistoric Nightmare 2. Psittacosaurus, the dinosaur with preserved skin, color, and even its cloaca. Move to the next layer and the fossils get almost impossible to believe. Psittacosaurus, a small plant eater from early Cretaceous China, is already one of the best understood dinosaurs alive in the fossil record, with more than 400 specimens found across the region. But one particular specimen held onto something else entirely: skin and microscopic pigment structures intact enough for you to reconstruct actual color, rather than a guess dressed up as one. A darker back, a lighter underside, natural countershading, the same camouflage trick still used by countless animals today. Then the real surprise, this same fossil preserved the cloaca, the single opening dinosaurs used for both waste and reproduction. The first time anyone has known exactly what that structure looked like on a dinosaur. Along the tail, a row of stiff, bristle-like filaments turned up too, unlike ordinary feathers and unlike anything expected on an early ceratopsian. One fossil didn't just answer a question for you, it opened several new ones at once. Human connection, Prehistoric Nightmare 3, dinosaur mummies, Dakota, and Leonardo reveal skin, muscles, and the last meal. Now brush away enough stone, and you stop finding fossils. You find something closer to a body. Most fossils form only after bone slowly trades places with mineral over millions of years. Soft tissue rots long before that process even starts. Every so often, though, a body mummifies before fossilization ever gets the chance to strip it down, and far more of the animal survives than you'd think possible. Dakota, a hadrosaur from North Dakota, kept an extraordinary envelope of skin across parts of its frame. A foot still showing deep wrinkles and folds, skin stretched delicately between the toes, closer to something recently deceased than something ancient. That preserved skin even helped build more accurate models of how the animal actually moved. Then there's Leonardo, one of the most complete dinosaur mummies ever found, skin still wrapped tight around the bone. Preserved impressions of muscles, tendons, and even internal organs gave you one of the clearest looks ever at dinosaur anatomy. Inside its stomach, ferns, conifers, magnolia leaves, and hundreds of tiny tunnels running through the gut material, traces of what may have been parasitic worms living inside this exact animal while it was still breathing. Its skin held patterns too, larger scales in some regions, smaller ones elsewhere, hinting at stripes or spots rather than one flat color, though the pigment itself never survived. You can study the texture closer than almost any other dinosaur ever discovered. The color stays a secret time refused to give up. Science plus speculation. Prehistoric Nightmare 4. Anchiornis, the first dinosaur whose colors were reconstructed. For generations, nobody had an honest answer to one simple question. What color were dinosaurs? Bones never helped. Even intact skin usually kept it hidden. Then you'd have stopped looking with your eyes and started looking through a microscope instead. Inside the fossil feathers of Anchiornis, microscopic pigment structures called melanosomes turn up, and by comparing their shapes to living birds, the same method Vinther's team would later apply to Microraptor, you can reconstruct a color pattern with real confidence. A mostly gray body, sharp black and white wings, a rust-red crest across the head. Nothing like the dull gray reptile you were handed as a kid. For the first time, you're not guessing a dinosaur's color. You're reconstructing it from physical evidence. Prehistoric Nightmare 5. Microraptor, the four-winged glider with shimmering feathers. One layer over, Microraptor goes further still. 4 wings, long feathers on both arms and legs, gliding through dense forest while early birds were only beginning to diversify. At a glance, its feathers look flat black. Under the microscope, evolutionary biologist Jacob Vinther and his team found an iridescent blue shimmer, the same effect still visible on a raven or a crow catching the right angle of light, likely used to attract mates, warn off rivals, or simply be seen by its own kind. Not a giant reptile anymore, something vivid, deliberate, alive. Threat/tragedy. Prehistoric Nightmare 6. Borylopelta, the best preserved dinosaur ever found. Save the last layer of stone for Borylopelta, and you're looking at the closest reconstruction anyone has ever been able to make of a dinosaur as it looked on the day it died. This heavily armored giant survived fossilization in 3-dimensional detail. Skin, armor, even the outer covering of its own protective plate still in place. None of it flattened or guessed at. Pigment evidence shows a reddish-brown body fading to a lighter underside, the same counter-shading camouflage you've already seen twice now in this story, because even an animal wrapped head to tail in armor still needed to disappear from large predators. Inside its stomach, plant material meaning it had been feeding not long before it died, in a landscape recently touched by fire. Picture the moment itself, the animal caught by a flood, swept from land it had grazed just hours earlier, carried out to open water it was never built to survive in. Its body drifted out to sea, sank upside down, and was buried fast enough that almost nothing about it was lost to time, scavengers, or decay. You're not reconstructing this animal from scattered fragments and educated guesses the way you would with almost anything else in this field. You're looking directly at something remarkably close to unchanged, more than 100 million years after the worst day of its life. Philosophical ending. Brush the last of the dust away, and the picture you started with, gray bone, silent and unreadable, isn't the whole story anymore. It never was. 6 fossils across 6 different corners of the ancient world quietly proved that dinosaurs were never the flat, colorless monsters stitched together from guesswork and old museum paint jobs. They had feathers where none were expected, colors reconstructed down to the exact shimmer, skin folds and scale patterns, and the precise structure of organs nobody thought could possibly survive this long. For over a century, bones told us where dinosaurs had been. These fossils finally showed you who they really were. So, brush in hand, 6 layers of stone behind you. Which discovery changed your picture of dinosaurs the most? The feathers, the colors, or the mummies that still hold their skin? I'd genuinely like to know. Tell me below.